Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Elevation Association Experience Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Dan Nelson. I'm joined, as always, with my co-host and partner, Dr. Jared Hill. Good morning, Jared. It's morning here. I guess I should preface that, but it's morning. Good morning. Um, Excited today to talk about something that we kind of been a hot topic for us in the last little bit. We've done some presentations on this. We've been talking about it quite a bit. And it's this concept of delegation, right? And delegate to elevate. It's not anything new. It's a basic business principle, but it's one that gets overlooked, especially in dentistry, because for a long time, I think docs get used to having to do things on their own. They have to compete on their own, and so you go all through dental school doing everything by yourself, and then you come out and maybe you're running a skeleton crew, so you're doing things on your own there. And so this concept gets a little lost, and so we're gonna tackle this topic headlong, Jared.
Yeah, this is gonna be a good one, and we like to use a lot of analogies with climbing and backpacking and so forth, elevating to delegate, like delegate to elevate. And so, it's you can't climb the mountain if you're carrying everybody's backpack. So it's really a matter of distributing all the responsibilities and figuring out here's the hard part. I think this is what a lot of dentists struggle with is what do I delegate? What are all the responsibilities that I have maybe as an owner? What should I delegate? What should my oversight be? Maybe I don't trust people. Maybe that's the issue. But we're going to dive deep into that today with some of our conversation and talk about how delegating isn't giving up control, it's actually multiplying your impact within your practice. And so, how becoming more productive, more profitable by delegating in the right way, right? You're not just saying, here you go, take this over. Let's delegate the right way, figure out the best way to do that. And maybe we'll share some examples of some ways that we did that at Wood River Dental Care and how we've seen other members of Elevation Association delegate some of their tasks and responsibilities and how it's freed them up to live a more balanced or harmonious life. So excited to dive into that today, Dan.
Totally. Yeah, I want to take a second. You guys know I love psychology. It's one of my it was my degree at college, and it's something that I still dabble in a little bit and tend to read and follow. And so I want to talk a little bit like why is there such a struggle to let go of Gina Wickman calls it letting go of the vine, right? Why is there so much struggle to let go of control or to be willing to delegate in dentistry? And a lot of it stems from what I was just talking about, but then you also run into the issue of um, we're taught to be perfect, which is, that's impossible, by the way. Uh, but there's a standard that I think we hold and we come in, and I think it's not a bad thing to have this like high standard of care. And so when we start to gain employees, um, sometimes some docs have an issue with just letting somebody do it their way, or they want a specific outcome, and so they feel like they've got to go and do it. They feel like if I don't do it, it's not going to get done right. So that's kind of one of the issues there. It's that no one does it as well as me mentality, which sounds arrogant, but I think it's less about arrogance and more about just like wanting that specific outcome and wanting something that's repeatable. And so they feel like if they don't do it, it's not going to happen. So and then there's, I think the bigger issue, and Jared, you and I were just talking about this, the bigger issue by far is lack of systems of trust. If you think about what I was just talking about, that's really a trust issue, right? It's less about control, it's more about trust. And so it's not like the dentists are a bunch of control freaks and just want to control everything. That's not it at all. It's about trusting that they'll get the outcome that they're trying to achieve, whether it be business or clinical or whatever. And so they have a really hard time letting go and letting somebody else take the reins on something and allowing them to run with it, because it's scary, right? Like, oh my gosh, like it's more of a fear-based thing than anything. And so if you don't have good systems and you don't train your staff in those systems and protocols, it's going to be very difficult to get that repeatable outcome. Our friend Paul Clark, the oral surgeon, Paul Clark, Dr. Paul Clark, um, when he did a presentation for us at one of our summits, that's one of the things he talked about was repeatable outcomes through systems and protocols. And I loved that presentation because he was talking about his surgery. He was actually giving a clinical explanation, but it's that type of mentality and having good systems and protocols is so important in the business model as well. So it's really important to have to know where you can go and get systems and protocols. That's something that we've worked really hard with at Elevation Association to create a series of systems and protocols that we can teach and implement into a practice so that a dentist can take those, make them immediately implementable and get the results that are repeatable, right? So that's the whole idea, is which direction do you want to go? If you don't, I mean, it's we always use these analogies of, backpacking and mountaineering and all this stuff, but think about it. If you don't have a system for river rafting, we go river rafting, right, Jared? That's something that's been fun that we take our members on because we live up here in the Sawtooth. And and the first thing they teach you when you go river rafting is the systems and protocols. Okay. What do you do if you fall off the boat? What do we do when we get into the class fours, class fives? What's the protocol here? What's the system that we're going to use? What's the equipment we're going to have? It sounds stupid and simple, but imagine if you did that just freaking winging it. Okay, we're just going to go hop in this boat and just go ripping down these rapids. The outcome is going to not be awesome, right? And so that's the fear, is that the fear is of an unsure outcome. And so if you can create a system and a protocol for your practice for each individual, whatever it is, whether it's clinical or business wise, you're going to get a pretty good predictable outcome that's going to remove a lot of that fear.
Yeah, and same thing. And I think we've all felt this clinically, right? So we have clinical systems and protocols where we have to delegate responsibilities clinically. Yeah, you can't do everything. You can't be the one setting up the room. You can't be the one tearing it down. You can't be I mean, you can do all those things. I'll say that. It's not like, I don't want to say you can't, but it's not the most efficient way to do it, right? So, and often the work you're holding on to is the very thing that's holding you back. So, you're holding on to the temps. Oh, I've got to make the temps this way. It takes time. It takes time to train and to implement a system, and make sure everyone's on the same board clinically. Well, the same thing is for your business, right? So when you're running your business, when you're being the leader, the CEO of your company, there is a certain amount of delegation that you need to do. And yes, it all comes back to you as the owner. You have to oversee it. And that's not what we're saying. We're not saying give it to someone and forget about it. We're saying train somebody, find somebody who's trained, whatever it may be, and find that system and then also implement it in the same way you would with a clinical protocol. This is the person who's overseeing this. This person who's overseeing this. They report back to me, and if there's a problem, we work through it. But at the end of the day, I don't have to be the one mining the data. I don't have to be the one going through all the reports personally. But at the end of the day, this is a system that needs to work. And so, the delegation part is what's going to turn you into a leader. You can, and I think that we talk about this often, and Gino Wickman talks about this too. This is the difference between a dictator and the difference between a leader, like a true leader. A dictator is going to have his thumb pressing on everything at all times, and people are going to feel incompetent, and they're going to feel like they're never going to be good enough, and they're never going to be quality, because as a dictator, you own this all the time. As a leader, let's empower people. Let's say, here are the responsibilities, divide the responsibilities, and then you can divide from there. So that's it's kind of a good, maybe
Yeah.
shooting up from where we're
Well,
at, right?
yeah, and I think you're talking the difference between the jockey and the horse, right? Like the horse does all the work. The jockey is the one that drives the thing. But I mean, you could be the horse, I guess, and be the jockey all at the same time. I was just thinking too, Jared, when you're talking about all this, you're starting to list some of this stuff. But can you imagine if you were trying, and I think there's a lot of docs that could probably relate to this, where they are during the day, they're making the temps, right? They are doing all the impression work. They're doing, maybe even trying to do some of the, heaven forbid, they're doing some of the scheduling. And then, so then they're doing the clinical work, the regular doc work, prep, maybe they're doing CERT design and all this other stuff. And then you're going to shift at the end of the day, and now you're going to go and pull reports. And oh my gosh, if you don't have some type of data analytics software, now you're going to try to navigate through, Dentrix or EagleSoft or whatever, and try to go and get reports. And then you're going to try to make sense of all that stuff. And now you're going to go back and work on your P&L. And now you're going to go, after that's done, you're going to go back and look and go, oh my gosh, I've got to send all this stuff in for my taxes. And that, oh my heck, like, you're burnt out. That is why docs burn out. And I think that sometimes there's a necessity, there's a season early on where maybe you have to do some of this stuff, but to do it late into your career, you're just asking for, you know, early stage burnout in your career. That's a horrible, it sounds so terrible to just do all that stuff. I vomited a little in my mouth right there. I'm all right. I'm okay.
That's okay. I think one of the things, Dan, and I like to start with this is you need to know what you need to delegate. And I think that may be the hard part too, is maybe part of the reason you talk psychology a lot, but part of the reason maybe why we don't delegate something is because maybe we don't really fully understand it
Yeah.
or understand what we're supposed to be doing with that aspect. I wanted to let everybody on this listening, I want all 6 listeners of this podcast
I think
know.
we're up to 7, dude. I think there's 7 now.
We got 7 now. 2. You can go on if you become a member of Elevation Association's school, SKOOL, we have all of our resources that are on there. There is a classroom section and there's a resource section, and there is an awesome PDF of the owner responsibilities. So all the responsibilities that you have as an owner, and this is a great starting point for anybody who says, okay, what do I want to do? What do I need to do? And what can I delegate to other people? So if you go to school and you become a member, you go to this PDF of the owner responsibility. It talks about what you need to do, right? You have your business management aspect. You develop and monitor your budgets, your P&Ls, your KPIs. You're setting these long-term goals, create action plans for practice growth. You're managing costs. You're maintaining your profitability. You hire, you train, you retain. You conduct performance reviews, provide feedback. You resolve conflicts. You promote teamwork. This is just the very first couple paragraphs of a couple pages of what we need to do. So I would recommend to anybody to go on school, become a member, get this PDF and download it and figure out, make a list of all these responsibilities that you have as an owner, or you should be doing, and maybe you're not doing. And then you can say, okay, what do I love to do? What do I want to do? And what can I delegate out, right? How can this machine, your practice, start to run like a true business? And I think once you see all the things that you should be doing as an owner, you can realize there is no way I can be doing this all by myself and still practice clinical dentistry. So I think that for me, I'm a visual guy. I didn't, and until I sat down and made this list, I actually didn't realize how much I was neglecting and how much I really needed to say, okay, I really need to focus on this, but I can't do this. And so I need to find this person that I can delegate this to so we can have this operation as a team. So I think that's a great place to start. And we can talk about a couple of these specific ones maybe as examples of some things that we've done at Wood River Dental and give some examples of how we delegated in order to elevate as well.
Yeah, and that list is long, man. It's like when you print it off, again, I threw up in my mouth a little bit. I love, by the way, that you told me it was okay that I threw up in my mouth a minute ago. Can we talk about that for a second? Like, he's just like, no, it's okay. Yeah, it's fine.
We
Yeah,
all do it, right?
we all do it. Yeah, I was metaphorically speaking, but I love that you took it literal. I think that's it
Oh,
is
you didn't
fine.
really do it?
No, I was being joking around. Like
Oh,
that
okay.
it made
I do it all the time. So
you start like a kid and you end like a kid. What could we just keep it in our mouth now? Lovely. It's regressed to this, Jared, what we're talking about throwing up in our mouths now on the show. We've hit the bottom.
I heard the bottom.
I was just thinking about one of our clients, a really cool guy we've been working with, who is really struggling with burnout. And when I presented that list, I literally do think he threw up in his mouth a little bit, because I think he just made him sick, and he's already burnt out. And to think the things that he's not doing and to show someone, oh my gosh, like you just said, the things that like I'm not doing a lot of this stuff. I mean, it's daunting. And it can be overwhelming. So yeah, I think that type of stuff in and of itself will get people to shut down and maybe not delegate. And they're not doing the work either. So it just goes by the wayside. It's just not getting done. Right. So that's kind of crappy. And I think it's worth talking too about the difference between just dumping tasks and delegating outcomes. Right. So dumping tasks is just like, oh, I don't want to do that. So I'm just gonna like fire it off to anybody but myself. I'm like, "Ugh, I don't want to do that thing. So I'll just give it to anyone that's standing around me versus delegating outcomes, which is like, okay, we have a specific outcome we want to achieve. True delegation, I'm going to empower that person. I'm going to pick the right person to give it to. I'm going to empower that person, and then I'm going to make sure that I set them up for success, and I give them the tools and make sure that they're trained to have the ability to get the outcome that we want. So big difference, right? Huge difference.
Yeah, and I think that maybe we show this with an example from whatever dental, maybe some things that we did, Dan, to set ourselves up for success, to find the right person, and to set up the right system and the protocol. Let's just go off of this very first thing from this PDF of responsibilities. It's develop and monitor budgets, P&Ls, and KPIs. Those are three big things that probably should be divided into develop and monitor budgets, develop and monitor P&Ls, and develop and monitor KPIs, right?
Right.
So for us, for budgets, what we've done is we've hired Ryan, in his capacity in Elevation Association, to sit down and help us to create a budget and monitor a budget. And we set up a monthly budget meeting. And then you and I don't think about it for the rest of the month until we sit down for the first meeting, which is exactly what you should. We shouldn't be fretting over it every day. Like, we shouldn't be going down and saying, "Oh, how much are," with our assistant who's in charge of ordering. She's got a budget. She knows how much she should be spending, and it's this. We review it every month and we change it or adjust it if we need to, but it's not something that we keep dear and to our heart, right? It's not something that we monitor all the time because we just don't have that time or energy. The second one is develop and monitor P&Ls.
Mhm.
Well, what we've done is we hired um, CFO ortho, right? And they're our bookkeepers. And the reason why we did this because we were we were doing in-house bookkeeping. My wife was doing it for a while, and she did it because I asked her to, and she's willing to do it, and it saved us money. But at the end of the day, she hated it and she didn't love it, and she didn't love to do it. And so we went out and we got a professional and we hired CFO ortho, who now works with Kane Waters,
Yeah.
and every month they send us a report. And it's awesome because it divided into categories. It has all of our areas divided into categories, and then it has a green check if it's good, and it has a red X if it's bad. That's easy for us to understand. We can look at it 1 month and be like, green check, good,
Yeah.
red X, bad.
Yeah.
So we
So
spend a lot of time reviewing it, right?
yeah. So when I put my crayons down from doing whatever, coloring book I'm doing, I can understand what I'm reading exactly. I'm like, oh, green, good. Okay. Red, bad. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, and I think too, Jared, that one of the things that, um, you say that we don't think about it. And the reason that at least for me, the reason I don't think about it is that I know I've got, a watchdog, in two levels of it really, because if Ryan comes across something, he's like, hey man, what is this about? I'm going over this, what's happening? And so before our budget meeting, if there's a red flag, he'll come and be like, what happened here? Why did 10 grand go out of this, right here, this account this last month? What did we spend this on? Um, to which I look to Jared and be like, it's probably Jared probably bought it or spent it or something. It's probably a new laser, another one.
Is it
Um,
Jared? Is it Jared that usually spends? I can't remember. Anyway, it doesn't really matter, but
yeah, but it's only when the lasers are broken.
that's
That's
right.
but yeah, I mean, I think that that's the reason that I can relax is that I've got somebody, there to be able to be like, hey, we got a night watchman be able to to sound the alarm when something's not right. And that's a real luxury, but it's not it's I don't think it's an unrealistic luxury. That's something that all of our members get, and we have something like this. Is like, hey, we go over this stuff every freaking week, and it's like, hey, you've got a problem here. There's something wrong. And so there's value in that monitoring, but I also understand like doing that on your own would be terrible. As you're going down these things, I'm just like I don't want to do that. I don't want
I
to
think
monitor that every week.
no, absolutely not. And I think what's interesting, Dan, I want to point this out too, is that let me take CFO ortho for example, bookkeeping. Bookkeeping, it costs us $750 a month or whatever it is. I don't even know, 700, something like that.
Uh-huh.
And people don't dentists don't want to spend money. They're like, oh, I can do that on my own. You
Hmm.
can. But after reviewing the budgets and the categories, they pointed out areas, inefficiencies that we didn't know that we had when we were doing the bookkeeping on our own. So when they would send us the reports, we looked at it and say, oh, here's some changes we need to make. Have we saved ourselves $750 a month? We, yeah, we have turned around to the tune of tens of thousands of dollars a month that we've saved and been more profitable because we spent the $750 a month for these professionals to do this. And
Yeah.
that's sometimes the hardest thing to see is maybe you don't produce more. Maybe your production is the same. Well, but on the back end, your profitability has skyrocketed, but you don't always see it because you're looking at that. So I think that's one of the biggest tripping points for delegation is
Yeah.
that a lot of times it's going to cost you some money. It is. It's going to cost you a few $100, maybe $1,000, whatever it is. But man, the return on that, not just only for the peace of mind, but the actual profitability that it's going to drive within your practice is huge, and we've seen that, and I wanted to give that example of the P&Ls and CFO ortho, not that this is turning into a promo for them. I don't care who you use or whatever, but that is an example of how we delegated. For a while, we were trying to internally just review that on our own, and sometimes it would happen, sometimes it wouldn't, but we've hired them. They send us the report whether we want it or not, and it allows us to sit down, and it takes us 5 minutes to look at it. And then if there's a problem, then we can spend some time digging into the one area that's a problem, right? And that has changed the profitability of our practice. That one delegation has allowed us to elevate at Winterberg Dental Care.
Yeah. Oh man, you just hit a nerve for me. So this is this is hands down one of the most frustrating concepts to beat into somebody's head. And it's that you've got to spend money to make money. I know it's an old adage and I know that it's cliched, but it's true. And the thing is that there is such a mind block because of what you just said, is that so many people think that they can just do whatever. I'll just do it myself. I'll save them money by doing it myself. Right. Um, and maybe you can save money. Maybe you are saving money, but you're stepping over dollars to save dimes. There's who were we just? Oh, we were just meeting with Kyle Christensen, the financial advisor, Kyle Christensen, and he was telling us, about this practice that he works with. What was it, like Indiana or something like that? That he he hired a coach and now he's exponentially doing better. And I hate it because when someone hears this coming from us, they're like, oh, well, you guys are just trying to get us to pay you to do stuff. Well, I'm like, yeah, because it helps, but I'm not trying to do it. My motivation isn't I'm not motivated by greed. Fine. If you don't want to hire us, go hire Mark Costas, go find somebody else that is doing something. And you can see why people adhere to these principles and and hire coaches. It's so that you can perform better. They take stuff off your plate. Why do you think the DSO model is so popular? It's not just the pot of gold at the end of the 5 years. That doesn't exist anymore. That's not there. It's gone. That was 5-6 years ago. That ship has sailed. So people are driving into DSOs because they take so much off their plate. It's the easy button, and they'd rather associate. It's a glorified. You're just a glorified associate. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. because it takes so much off your plate. But for those of us who want to have practice ownership and maintain a complete autonomy, it's just a too complex of a dental world now, where the business market, the business side is so competitive and complex that to assume that you can do it all on your own is insanity. I just think it's crazy. And so, when we meet with people and we say, yeah, you should hire somebody, I think they come in at their guard and like, oh, you just want me to hire you, and you're trying to sell me into hiring you. And it's like, all right, hire whoever you want, but get somebody to help you out, because we're in a phase of the dental world right now where you'll get eaten alive if you don't. You're going to burn out really quick. The competition's going to just get all over you. They're going to swallow you up. So you just can't do this stuff alone. You've got to delegate some of this stuff out. You'll go insane. It's just too crazy of a dental world right now.
Yeah, it's not only insanity, Dan, like get it, but it's either arrogance or ambivalence, in my opinion. One of
Yeah.
those two things, right? I mean, that's your those are a couple of your common phrases. But if you think I can do this, you really aren't running efficient. I'm just gonna burst your bubble right there. But in my case, it was more ambivalence. Like
Hmm.
I didn't know. Like honestly, that's the reason why I created Delegation.
Ignorance. You're talking about ignorance.
Oh, yeah, in ignorance, right? In ignorance.
Yeah.
Thank you. I honestly, I didn't know really what all the responsibilities that I should be doing, and I didn't know what all my resources that were available to me. So, you know what helped me with that, Dan, is to sit down with Ryan and with our EA operating system, and to create like clear job descriptions,
Yeah.
and then also scorecards. Right.
Yep.
So I needed to know what the KPIs were that I should be hitting, or I could be hitting, I should say. There's no should, but what is possible for you to be? What are other practices doing? What are they hitting? And can I hit that? Then I think that's a good place to start. Maybe you don't want to hit some of those KPIs, and eventually you're going to settle on your own KPIs, your key performance indicators. What are all those things? What is your profitability? What is your overhead? What are all of those? What is your budget? What are those? What are your own KPIs? But it's great to know what other people are doing, and not as a reference of pride of I'm doing better than them, but oh man, I didn't even know that was a possibility. So and so is doing this, like, holy cow, is that even possible for me in my practice? Let's find out. Let's dive into it. So you need to have clear job descriptions. This is what these people are responsible for, and your accountability chart. And
So that assumes you have an accountability chart, by the
okay,
way.
yeah, let's start there, right? Right. Yeah. I mean, you have to create this. You have to have an accountability chart. People have to have responsibilities. And then within those delegated responsibilities, you have to have scorecards. You have to have KPIs. You need to have something to measure. And it's just to know where you're at and where you can improve. And then, those are sometimes hard to set up or figure out what those are. That's why we have, we have our weekend course for our outfitters course, where you can come and we can help you in that weekend, like 2 day. We do so many things of the accountability chart and KPIs for you that weekend. If you want to come and spend an awesome weekend in Sun Valley, or, if you want to know more about that, contact us. We can help you as well. But that's, I think, where it starts is a good accountability chart, and knowing what all the responsibilities that need to be delegated are, and then who they fall under. And then here's the cool thing, and maybe this is a little off topic, but in your accountability chart, if you have all of those areas that you are supposed to be delegating, and you don't have anybody, or everyone's at max capacity, create another position in the accountability chart and leave it open. So, I mean, someone's going to be doing it. Maybe, and you put yourself in maybe 2 or 3, and that way you can see, holy cow, I'm really doing the work of like 3 people,
Yeah.
right? And then now I can make a plan, and I can say, okay, in the next year or 6 months, I can find somebody to replace me doing these things, because realistically, I can't do all these things efficiently. I really can't. I mean, I'm doing them now and kind of half doing them, whatever. But leave that position empty in your accountability chart to know, or put yourself in it to know that you need to be replaced at some point in time, and then make a plan to do that. Right. And so I think that's where it starts, and I referenced the PDF earlier. That's a great place to start, with just the responsibilities that you should be having. At least
Hmm.
just on the business side, let alone the clinical side, right? There's the clinical also goes underneath the accountability chart. And then divide that out and then figure out where to go from there. And it's a little overwhelming. I'm gonna be honest to do it by yourself, which is why we love to sit down and do it with you. We've figured out so many things. There's also a whole tribe of other EA members who have done similar things because not every accountability chart is the same. They're all a little bit different. So it's
Right.
great to get feedback from other people who have done this and, and to be a part of that community and part of that tribe to work through that.
Yeah, you made me think of two things, Jared, when you said that, and that's along with those, we have a couple of tools that are available on our website. There's the Delegate to Elevate tool. It's very simple. It's not rocket surgery, but it has 4 different categories that allows you to kind of figure out what you need to delegate, right? And you want to keep it simple, but it's just go online, check it out. It's really a nice tool to be able to filter out the things that you don't like to do or maybe you're not good at, and be able to get rid of some of that stuff, delegate that down to someone who does like to do it and is better at it than you are. And then the second thing I was thinking is that, as we delegate, there's a lot of, we keep talking about systems and protocols. We have an entire group and listings of systems and protocols for assistants, for hygienists, for front office, for, treatment coordinator, for insurance coordinator, for whoever it is. We have a bunch of resources available. If anyone wants to get their hands on those, check us out at school, Elevation Association on SKOOL. You referenced that earlier, Jared. That you have access to all of that, and that is an important part of empowerment, is getting them to really understand what their roles and responsibilities are, the systems and protocols. We keep beating this drum today because this is kind of what this podcast is about, but it's one thing to create your own. It's another thing to go ahead and hack somebody else's. And that's what I would recommend, is like, don't reinvent the wheel. Just go and grab it from somebody else. And we have a whole bunch of those that are available. So please take advantage of that and go and get, pluck from our tree the fruits of our labor, so you don't have to, right? Like, go and grab that stuff. Um,
And,
yeah, I
and
think
modify it, and then modify it and personalize it,
yeah,
right?
exactly. Yep. Yeah, I mean, I've got like one of my big epiphanies in this past year, Jared, has been, when we've worked with offices that maybe have struggled to integrate a lot of this stuff. Um, there's a key ingredient missing, and it is the integrator. So I don't mean to use the same word twice, but so you have, in any office should have a visionary and an integrator. And dentists typically are visionaries. We've talked about this before. Um, there's occasionally they're a blend of integrator and visionary. And then sometimes, not too often, but sometimes the dentist is an integrator. If you are an integrator, you are setting yourself up for success a lot better than a visionary does. Most of us are visionaries. Jared's a visionary. I'm more visionary than I am integrator. I'm a little bit of a blend. And if we don't have Ryan, who's an integrator, oh, we're screwed. Because if you get two visionaries together, Jared and I can talk the moon, man. We will plan. We'll take over every castle. We'll climb every mountain. We'll do all of it because we have all these visions that we're gonna do. But not a lot of it actually, not the rubber doesn't meet the road all that often. And it's because our head is in the cloud too often, and we're too excited about this next thing that we're going to go do. Right. And so you really need to have an integrator or a project manager or whatever the crap you want to call it, give it whatever name you like. But someone that is able to take the vision of the practice and make it a reality. And again, we have at EA, we have a test for that. So you can test yourself and see where you are. You can test. And if you are one thing, you should really, and you rely on your office manager or whoever it is that is, you suppose is that integrator, you should probably test them as well and make sure that they are an integrator. Because if you're finding that things aren't happening like they should, that person probably isn't an integrator. And we've found that that is the number one holdback for any office to gain traction and get moving in the right direction is a lack of integrator. And usually it's a poor assessment, not because the person's not a good judge, but maybe the office manager, whoever, overpromises what they're able to do, and they're really not a good integrator. So that's really important to identify your role and the role of the yin to your yang. Who's the visionary? Who's the integrator? And that is massive. I can't begin to overexpress how important this principle is that you have to have an integrator in your office. I don't care who it is, but you've got to have one. And if you don't have one, it's going to be really, really hard. And once you do identify yours, the power of delegation is exponential. You're going to see it take off so fast. Because a lot of people have the ability to delegate, they're just not good at integrating. And so it seems like I think I'm delegating, but then it's not really producing what they want on the other end. So that's a huge thing. Go back, assess, find out what you are, find out what whoever that cohort is you have in your office is, and then pivot from there.
Yeah, this is a topic that we could talk on and on about. It's so important. Like Dan said, the visionary integrator is just it's a really fun aspect to think about too, because once you figure out and define who you are, it's actually very liberating.
Yeah.
Once you're define yourself as, or once you see yourself, once you realize that you are truly visionary, then you don't feel guilty for not integrating. It's just not in you, and that's okay, and that's totally fine. Or vice versa. There are some people that some there's talk to that like, I don't know, I don't see a vision for where I want to go, but I
Yeah.
can make stuff happen. That's okay too, and it's just finding the person that to be that person for you, the visionary or the integrator, whatever that is.
Yeah, I want to kind of pick on our friend Leighton Jones up in Billings, Montana. He's one of our original members at EA, and he's kind of been a little bit of our poster child because Leighton has amazing leadership skills, and he's a gifted leader. And one of the things that he did when we first started working with Leighton is that he brought his office manager into the meetings. And so when we would have weekly meetings with him, and he says, "Hey, I want to have my office manager involved in these conversations." So he brought her in. We realized right away that she was his integrator, and she's a great integrator, right? And she started to raise her hand and be like, "Oh, I can take care of that. I can take care of that." And so the delegation process was cool because he wasn't immediately assigning her stuff. She was raising her hand and being like, "I could do that. I could do that." That's still a form of delegation. And what was cool about that was Leighton has the leadership skills and foresight and vision to be able to step away and say, "Yep, let go of that. You've got it. You take care of it. I'm going to get out of the way." And sometimes that's the big challenge, right? Is to get out of somebody's way to let them do the job well. And so it's been really cool to watch Leighton over the past 5 years, his practice just explode. And they work together as a team to properly delegate the assignments to either his associate, whether it be his insurance coordinator, or to, his assistants or the hygienist or whoever. He's become very, very, he already had the leadership skill. What was cool is watching the empowerment of his office manager coming in and then him getting out of the way and focusing on his strengths. He's such a good people person, and he cultivates such great relationships with his patients. It allowed him to focus more on the things that he really enjoyed and the things that fed him. And then as a team, they worked together and just started delegating and uh, finding the accountability, keeping people, responsible for what they do. It was awesome. And it's you think it would be the opposite, right? You think that that delegation, if it's done wrong, it can cause a lot of chaos, but it didn't. It created a lot of accountability, a lot of structure, a lot of confidence. And so when delegation is done right, this is what it can create. And I think that's really important to just embrace that fact that if you're seeing chaos as a result of your delegation and not accountability, then you're probably not doing something right. It's time to take a step back and say, okay, what am I doing wrong here? I need maybe some help, someone to come out from the outside and assess and say, what's happening? Why am I feeling out of control? Is the outcome not what I want? What's really happening? I'm delegating, so why isn't this happening? Right. And I think that there's kind of two principles to be learned from that.
I think that what Leighton taught us at Elevation Association is that he was stuck, right? He wasn't growing. He felt like he was just literally spinning his wheels. He was really worried, very frustrated with all the business aspect of what he was doing, wasn't growing at all. And I think what he found was that his micromanagement was killing momentum. And when he started to delegate, his delegation actually created momentum. And when that started to happen, when he started to find the systems, I think Leighton fell into the same category that I was in, a little bit of ignorant, a little bit like, oh man, I didn't realize that there were these important KPIs that I needed to monitor and go over and review and have this system set up as. And then once he and his ops manager both realized it, and like you said, she started to volunteer to review to take on some of that stuff for him. All of a sudden, he created so much momentum. I mean, his practice has just exploded since he
Yeah.
started to delegate, right? Talk about elevation, man. He went from this small office where he was frustrated, he was ready to be done, to building this brand new gorgeous building and bringing on an associated partner that he loves, somebody who he can't wait to partner with a team that's grown and has really come into his own, and it's been a really inspiring story to see. And it all started out with this epiphany of, oh man, these are the things that I can be doing. How do I do it? Let's figure out a way to delegate, to identify these. First of all, identify the responsibilities. Let's delegate them. Let's have EA do some stuff. Let's have my accountant do some stuff. Let's have my office manager do some stuff. Let's have my CPA do some stuff. Let's have my lawyer do some of these things. And now we've got this team that has just allowed him to grow, I think, beyond what he ever thought was possible, which is very cool. What I think is possible for everybody if they
Yeah.
just slow down for a second. Let's slow down, organize, then you can speed up, and let's make that happen.
Yeah, I think there's an underlying principle in all of this, Jared, that has to be recognized, and that's to be honest. And to be honest with yourself, be honest with your team. But self-honesty and self-assessment is really tough. A lot of times our frail dental ego doesn't like that so much. And so we tend to live in this world of maybe giving ourselves excuses because we don't want to face the reality. So that's a really important underlying current through all of this is honesty and the willingness to be honest with yourself and be vulnerable. It's very, very difficult. That's one of my favorite principles that you brought to the table with EA, Jared, early on. Was you said, if you're going to be a member of EA, you've got to be willing to be vulnerable. And because if you're not, then you can't grow. And I've always loved that. I think about that all the time. Am I allowing myself to be vulnerable right now? Am I putting up walls? Can my frail dental ego handle what's happening, right now? And so it's like, okay, you just have to be vulnerable. It's all right. Um, I want to give everybody a challenge. And it's pretty simple. I want to ask two questions for anyone that is listening. Um, Ask yourself this: what am I doing that someone can do that someone could do 80% as well? And then the second thing is who on my team is ready for more responsibility? So just ask yourself those two things, right? And see if that doesn't open up the door for the possibility of delegating some of the things that you maybe don't like to do, or maybe you don't do as well. Someone else on your team could do it. And find how liberating that is, and just kind of try to track and measure what kind of freedom that brings and how that releases you to be able to do, maybe focus on some other things that are going undone, or maybe focus on the things you enjoy more. So that's the challenge for this week is to do those two things. Just say, what am I still doing that someone can do 80% as well? And who on my team is ready for more responsibility?
The other challenge, last one, is if you don't know what your responsibilities are or should be, or maybe just need a idea, go on School Elevation Association and sign up and look at all the resources we have available. It's super cheap. It's less than $100 a month just to get going, and it's like it has so many resources available for you. Or reach out to us, Dan or I or Ryan. Let us know. I mean, by the time this posts, I'll probably be in Africa with our Dental Legacy Foundation doing some humanitarian stuff. Dan is following me a few days later, so but reach out to us. We're happy to chat or talk or respond or whatever, and help out in any way we can. Maybe we can help you come up with a plan of how to proceed and go forward. And we're really here to uh, to share our resources and help us keep independent practices alive and thrive.
Yeah, join a community, not a corporation. It's, we talk about that. Let go to grow. Let's throw some other taglines in there. And realize that, hey, you don't have to do this alone. There are systems out there. There are people, groups out there that are equipped to help out. So don't, if you're on, if you're on the edge, ready to freaking throw it all away, like you just had enough, you're like, that's it, I'm selling it and I'm moving to Tonga. Don't do it. Reach out. We'd love to help out. And if nothing else, you just want to pick our brains, like Jared was saying, let's do it. Let's go. So appreciate everybody hopping on and listening. Shout out to Devin for being always listening, and Kurt. I think you guys at least make up 50% of our listeners. So just gonna give them a shout out real quick. All right, Jared, any other thoughts before we take off? It's a Friday here at Wood River Dental, so we're gonna do some cosmetic cases today. Woo! Love the
Yeah.
cosmetic stuff.
No further thoughts. Just looking forward to some upcoming events we have. We have our annual summit. We're going to go to Dominica in February, which is going to be so fun. We're going to have Minal Sampat come, who's a marketing strategist. She's fantastic.
She's
We're going
pretty
to talk
brilliant.
about life, leadership, legacy there. Go on our website, look at that. We also have an Alaska fishing trip planned, father, son, again, a leadership conference in July. It's going to be super awesome as well
With
next year. So
with optional grizzly bear fight, right? I think
optional
that's an
grizzly
option. It's
fight.
one of the adventures you can do.
Yeah, you're leading that one, right, Dan?
Yeah, I'm taking photos.
Okay, cool. Yep, join us. If not, we will see you guys next time.
All right. Cheers.